Next, let's talk about communication and confidence. So we just went over context and setting and game plan scripts, all that fun stuff. That kind of leads us next to communication competency. So communication competency is how confident you feel. To me, this is my definition. How confident you feel in a particular communication setting, context, and situation. Well, then sometimes, and maybe you can relate to this, there's going to be moments in your life where you don't feel very competent with your communication. And that might be like a situation like public speaking. Like you may feel pretty confident communicating if you're just talking one-on-one or if you're talking in a small group, but as soon as you're put on a stage or up at a podium, you freeze. Right? You lose what's called communication competency. So the book says communication competency is the impression that communicative behavior is both appropriate and effective in a given situation. To me, that translates to confidence, right? So, like I said, you may have relationships you feel very competent in, but then, like I asked you to start working with a group in class. All of a sudden you feel a little bit anxious about that. You don't know your classmates. It feels kind of weird. There's not really historical context there. So then you don't feel as competent. But some people, you might walk into like for me, you put me in a small group and I'm like, cool. Yeah, let's talk. That doesn't make me nervous. But say if you meet someone new, like that doesn't make me nervous to meet someone new, but some people it might. Another way that you might look at it is like if you like public speaking. So maybe I put you up at the podium and all of a sudden you freeze and you freak out. You're like, oh, I just don't feel very competent or very good at, right? Some people might just say, I don't feel like I'm good at public speaking. But that really is just you saying like, I don't feel like my communication is very competent within this communication setting, right? So that is what we call communication apprehension. Communication apprehension is just a big word for like anxiety surrounding your communications. Well, there's several different types of communication competency, and it's important to know which one you identify with so that you can come up with what we call a communication improvement plan. You can improve that. Let's look at those communication apprehension types. So we have, so I guess I'll define it for you as the book says. Communication apprehension is the fear or anxiety associated with real or anticipated communication with others. So like if you're thinking about having to do a speech and that gives you anxiety, right, that is anticipated. If it's like you're sitting next to someone in class and I've asked you to now share something with them and you get anxious, that would be like actual, like it's happening type communication apprehension. So like I said earlier, there's trait-like. Trait-like is going to be whenever you feel anxious, really in all kinds of speaking situations. Then you have audience-based. So this might be specific people. Like a good one for audience-based would be like if you have a crush on somebody. I remember whenever I was growing up, if I had a crush on someone, I would like freak out every time that I had to communicate with that person, right? So that would be maybe an audience-based. So see, situational, that's going to be short-lived anxiety that happens during a particular situation, like a job interview. Right? Like something that's not happening all the time or it's not like a constant thing you're in, but like a situation that pulls out that anxiety. And then, and then you have context-based. So this is like a particular, like in this particular type of setting or context, I'm always going to be nervous. Like public speaking in general, right? Public speaking in general makes me nervous. But small group communication really doesn't. However, a small group interview would make me nervous, right? See, like, so situation or context is like big picture, whereas situational is more specified for you, if that helps you understand that a bit better. Like I said earlier, you can come up with what's called a communication improvement plan. So that's going to be to first identify the problem. You have to understand why you get nervous or why you feel like you're not very competent in your communication in a particular situation. Okay, so identify the problem. State the specific goal, like what are you wanting to achieve? That's really important. Just being vague, like, in general, I just want to be a good communicator. That's not really achievable, right? We need to have specific things that we're going for. So have specific goals. Outline the specific procedure for reaching that goal. So what can you do specifically to actually achieve the goal that you just set? And then devise a method for measuring progress. So making sure that you're kind of checking back and looking at it. All right, so how do you do those things? Well, the book actually does provide a guide for that. I would recommend maybe doing that for yourself if you would like to, because I think it's really helpful for people. Because I think because communication is a learned behavior, we sometimes just think, oh, I'm just not good at communicating. I'm not good at sharing my feelings. Oh, I'm not good at, small group or one-on-ones, or, I'm not good at public speaking. All of those things are actually something that can be practiced. You can become good at it. So, but in order to become good at it, we just have to be able to have a clear goal that we're trying to reach. We're trying to understand what steps it's going to take for us to get there. And then we have to measure it and figure out, okay, how can I continue to improve? And again, just remember, the more competent you feel in any communication situation, or you're going to feel more confident in general.